Welcome to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, a doctor-prepared nurse practitioner, and this show is about empowering you to live a radiant, healthy, and balanced life. I'm very excited to introduce today's guest, Stephen Swarner, a Navy veteran and the Executive Director of Operation 22. Operation 22 is a nonprofit created in 2022 and is dedicated to the mission of helping veterans with mental health challenges, suicide awareness, and prevention. So welcome, Stephen.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about your story and what led you to develop Operation 22?
So the development is a story that came from a few friends of mine that got together. We all kind of suffered with PTSD. All of our stories are a little bit different. I think they all need to be heard. But to get into my story, I served 4 years in the Navy. After deployment, I came home, and I was actually stationed at NAS Jacksonville. It was 2011, and I was going through a terrible time, had some survivor's guilt, lost a couple of my friends, and I decided that one night I was going to drink myself into the abyss, pulled into the Target parking lot on Roosevelt, took a gun, put it in my mouth, pulled the trigger. And God blessed me with a light primer strike. The gun never went off. So luckily, I made it past that. But my life kind of spiraled out of control at that point. I ended up getting medically discharged from the Navy for mental health. There wasn't a lot of guidance through that process. It was very overbearing on my mental. When I made it back to Tennessee, my life just continued to spiral out of control. There were drugs, alcohol. I was a horrible person, extremely mean to my wife. Shout out to my wife. She's been an amazing person. We've been together for 20 years, and she pushed me to get better every single day. And there were times where, I feel like she got the worst of me. But she's always been there, and I'm sure she will continue to be there for me. She's helped me start this organization. So having her by my side has been a huge part of my healing. So after getting back to Nashville, I just got a regular job like a regular person. You go from doing search and rescue in the Navy to I was working at a moving company. I was working at a pet store. I was driving part-time for Pizza Hut. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to law school, got a job as a paralegal, just going in the circles, meeting different characters of life, and was driving myself insane because all I wanted to do was go back to the military. I made a terrible decision on trying to, take my own life, but I didn't know that was going to lead to me leaving the military. I wanted to be a career guy. I wanted to spend 20 years in the military. That was my goal from a very young age.
You were very young when you joined.
Yes, I was 17. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was in boot camp at 17. I went to BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition School, at 17. Made it through Hell Week. I failed dive phase and decided to pursue search and rescue. Actually, I didn't decide to pursue that. The Navy was like, hey,
that's what they needed.
You must go there now. You should have passed. So I went. I actually enjoyed that job. I made a ton of friends. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that fail BUDS end up going there anyway. But because of that direction, it led me to my story, which I absolutely love, because now I can take my struggles and help turn it into something positive for other people. So after not knowing what I was going to do for years and years and years, and after not having any guidance, I moved into this cul-de-sac of guys. And, I remember the day I pulled in there. I'm from South Florida. I'm not used to people being crazy nice. And we moved to Gallatin, Tennessee, of all places. And this guy comes across the street and he's like, hey, my name's Eric Agnos. Can I help you unload your truck? And I'm like, why? So you can see what I got? He was like, no, man, we ordered you guys pizza. We just want to welcome you to the neighborhood. We want to help you out. I was like, get away from me, weirdo. Why are you being so nice? Uh-huh. And he was like, I got a Bible study. I'd love you to come check it out on Wednesday. And I was like, no. At this time, I was doing drugs, acting a fool, drinking all the time. I did not think that was the place for me. Another neighbor comes out. He's like, hey, my name's John Micah. I'm the youth pastor at Hendersonville Church of Christ. And I'm like,
You picked it, right?
No, I did not pick it. Brittany picked it. So the next neighbor comes out. I got a joint in my hand, and she's like, "Hey, my name's Heather. I'm head of the DEA in Tennessee." I was like, "Oof." I was like, "This is medicinal from Florida." She's like, "We don't do medicinal in Tennessee." So I tossed that. Uh, Still, life continued to spiral and spiral and spiral until um, one of my friends got me an opportunity to. He's like, "Hey, man, we want to hire you as a manager for Discount Tire." So I jumped into that role, became a manager there. Bruce Holly, the owner, the founder, he loved veterans. He heard my story my first week of ever being hired there. This dude's a billionaire, has thousands of stores. Heard my story. A year later, comes back to me, asked me about my story again, asked me about my wife, asked me about my kids, and then was like, "Man, I wish there was something like that that could help people."
Mhm.
I was like, "Man, me too." So fast forward, I'm there for 7 years. COVID happens. I'm like, "Man, it's time for me to move on. I want to move back to Florida." We moved back to Florida, and um, during COVID, retail was not the place to be.
Mhm.
It was kind of horrible. People were just so mean. So my mortgage guy, Andrew Cady, was like, "Hey, you have a great personality, man. People would love you. You're good with numbers. Why don't you get into mortgages?" And I was like, "No way, man." At that time, I was like, "I make $92,000 a year. I'm not leaving Discount Tire." And he was like, "I made $92,000 this quarter." And I pulled the wolf on Wall Street. "You show me a check for $92,000, I'm coming." So he showed me his check for $92,000, and he put me through school or the
Wow.
class. He was like, "Hey, man, take this test. If you pass the test, then I'll get you hired." Well, I got hired on. Or no, I didn't get. I'm sorry. I took the test, passed it. He ended up moving to a different mortgage company. I didn't go with him. I went working at another mortgage company, and then um, when I got to that other mortgage company, it was Approved Mortgage here in Palm Coast. One of the real estate agents, her name is Kathy Hyder. She has a nonprofit called Remembering Vets,
I know Kathy. Yeah.
and I was her executive director for 2 years. I helped her grow that. We did some fall festivals, did a bunch of events. Some of the stuff that we did, we didn't really see eye to eye on. She does a lot of stuff to help veterans, but I've always had this path that I wanted to help veterans with mental health,
Yes.
and she wants to help veterans with everything. So
Both important.
yeah, both
But
are important.
yes.
So I just told her, "Hey, I'm gonna take my direction here," and
Mhm.
uh, so I didn't know how it was gonna turn out. On the 23rd of December, 2022 or 2021, I put in my resignation as executive director of Remembering Heroes, and 2027 or on the 27th of 2021, I filed for my nonprofit. And I'm telling you how God fast works. Everyone knows how long it takes to get a nonprofit. January 2nd, 2022, Operation 22 was born.
Wonderful.
Everything was done. No attorney, no nothing. Did every paperwork all by myself. I had, two other guys that helped me start the organization. One of them got into politics. One of them moved on to something else. Great individuals that helped us kickstart everything, and it's been fantastic ever since. And now our growth has been tremendous. We just helped our 1,000th veteran. We've done a lot of events. A lot of our stuff is silent, though. I hear people say all the time, "Hey, man, you should post what you did. You should post what you did." And I'm like, some people don't want to get up here and show their story.
Right.
Some people don't want to talk about suicide. But this month, it's September. It's Suicide Awareness Month.
Yes, and I did not realize that when we scheduled this, and I was so glad we were able to work it out so that you can come and we can talk about this important issue.
Yes, it is very important. I don't know if you know the stats, but in a 22-year war, we lost about 7,000 people that were killed in action. That same 22 years, we lost over 140,000 to suicide.
Yeah.
A lot of veterans were struggling with survivor's guilt is huge. When you come back and you just have no direction in life, your life is planted for you.
Right.
You wake up, you do this, this, lunchtime, this, bedtime, eat, sleep, repeat.
Right.
It's set out for you. You don't have a mortgage to pay because they take care of it. You don't have meals to prepare because they take care of it. You don't have anything to do because they take care of everything except for your car and your insurance.
Yep.
So when you get out, and they're like, hey,
Good luck.
this is not a deck, that's a floor, that's not a bulkhead, that's a wall, and that's not a scuttlebutt, that's a water fountain. Have a nice day. So we're just changing terminology, and then
Yeah.
you're out on your own.
I think so many people join so young that you're not fully formed as a person yet. And then when you get out, like it's
Yeah.
a huge, huge adjustment.
Yeah, all that raising that your parents did in that 16, 17, 18 years of life is just demolished because they take whatever your parents did and they ruin it in 9 to 12 weeks, depending on what boot camp you go to. And then they put you out there, and now you're just this machine for the military. Not that that's wrong. Like, we need that. If we didn't, we would have a world that's unpoliced, and we need a world to be policed. And a good theory to that is if you go to the shopping center over here, people can't even put their own buggies back into the buggy holder, the cart holder. So how can we expect people to do the right thing day in and day out if something that simple can't be done? So I believe we need military, we need police to make sure. I'm not a huge fan of big government, but I think policing people is definitely a thing that we need. So putting people into that role, it's good. I just hope that when people do join, they join to do it for life. Because if you don't, you have to reset. And when I reset, at this point I was 21, 22, had a kid, and I didn't know what to do with my life. All my friends are getting out of college, starting their careers, and I'm just either starting college or like doing BS jobs to make it. Literally no direction on how to grow.
Yeah. And I think I shared with you when we met the first time, I was in the military, but I was a nurse practitioner. And so when I got out, I said, I'm still going to be a nurse practitioner. I wasn't really expecting anything to change.
Yes.
But when you are in the military and you have a certain rank, and that rank is respected. And then for me, I got out and I was nobody. and I just wasn't anticipating it. So I went certainly not as severe as PTSD or anything like that, but it is a huge adjustment to become a civilian again after being in the military.
100%. How old were you when you joined?
So I had an ROTC scholarship, so that's how I went to college. So it's kind of like being in the reserves sort of at 18, but I was actually 22 when I got commissioned.
22 when you got commissioned, and you have to serve 6 when you get commissioned, correct?
So I had a 4-year commitment. I stayed for 11.
Okay.
So the first 11 years of my adult life, I was in the Army.
Nice.
Which worked out for me.
Did being an officer, was your segue out of the military? Was it hard too, or was it?
Only in that, I went from being somebody in my own mind to nobody.
Yeah, real quick, right? And,
Right,
that was kind of
right.
mine. You're this special forces dude, and then you're nobody. Now you're moving people's furniture. So it's rough on your mentality. It's like you're a big man on campus, and then you're nobody, real quick.
Right.
So
I'm going to have you hold that thought.
Yep.
We're going to pause for a break from our sponsor. You're listening to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, and my guest today is Stephen Swarner, the founder of Operation 22. Before the break, we were talking about veterans and PTSD and some mental health concerns that happen more often with veterans. So can you share what's significant about the number 22?
So the number is much greater today than it was when we started Operation 22, but 22 veterans a day take their own lives.
Every day.
And the unfortunate part about that is just violent suicides. That does not include overdoses.
Really?
So that makes that number far greater than 22.
Right.
So we want to just dial that number back. And, we do that through therapy with Operation 22. Or not therapy, I'm sorry, counseling with Operation 22. I'm sorry, gotta quit using that word. Counseling through Operation 22. And I think the biggest thing that we do differently than other people, there's a lot of veterans that don't want to go sit in a room and talk to a therapist or a counselor, but if you go out and, you bro them up, you become friends with this veteran, and then you show your vulnerability, you tell them a story, they tell you a story back, you build relationships with them, but you do it while you're out doing fun stuff, so it doesn't seem like you're doing any type of counseling. So I take them golfing. I got 4 hours with you on 18 holes golfing. Take you deep sea fishing. I've got 8 hours with you deep sea fishing. If I go camping with you, I got you all weekend camping. So our events are doing the stuff that veterans love to do: shooting, hiking, fishing, hunting, four-wheeling, motorcycle riding. If a veteran loves to do it, I'll take them to do it. So I do counseling, but through events instead of doing it in a room like this.
Right.
And through that, we build camaraderie and we bring back that brotherhood. Because a lot of the things that we miss, if you ask a veteran, what's the number one thing you miss? Man, I miss my brothers too. Or
Right.
sisters, sorry. But
Right. Like
miss
camaraderie.
I miss the camaraderie.
Yeah.
And, once you see somebody get that back, I don't know if you've been around a lot of veterans who have like seen an old veteran, the happiness that sparks as soon as they see
Right.
somebody, even through conversation. I've met so many veterans, and I never served with them, but I'll tell my story and I'll work with them through Operation 22. And next time they see me, I'm their buddy.
You're the guy.
I have that camaraderie again. So I think building that camaraderie is the number one thing that I do in counseling that continues it to grow. Our roughest part now is that we're 1,000 veterans in, and trying to hold camaraderie with 1,000 veteran while running my mortgage company.
So you need some help.
I need some help.
Yes.
I definitely need some help. I try and tell people all the time. Some people are like, "Oh man, I can't help financially." Well, can you be a volunteer?
Right. So what do you need in a volunteer?
So I prefer, if you're going to do counseling, I prefer you to be a veteran to do the counseling, and I will provide the counseling courses that you take, the peer counseling courses, and then we will pay for you to take a veteran or a group of veterans golfing, fishing, hiking, hunting, and in turn this helps you too, because you're getting it off your chest. You're being vulnerable. You're telling your story now. So you got your story out, they're getting their stories out, and it's like a weight being lifted off of every person's chest. So I prefer to do counseling in that manner.
Right.
But volunteers, anytime we have an event, we always need volunteers for setup. We need, volunteers to market, getting the word out. Everyone loves veterans. So, I just need help pushing out a lot of marketing is probably our number one thing that we need help in. Counseling by veterans and donations.
And donations.
Yep. Donations, definitely.
So where do you see Operation 22 going in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I think that we will be a household name across the United States.
Love it.
It's a big goal. I did not think Operation 22 would be as big as it is today. I just figured I'd help a few vets, and if I could save one veteran a year, then I was doing my thing. And it's been 3.5, almost 4 years, and I just marked 1,000. My wife and I just went across the United States. We took our RV, our 4 boys, our 2 service dogs, went to 32 different states, helped 114 veterans in completely different ways. Some of it wasn't through counseling. Sometimes we were walking around Walmart and we were just taking our card and paying for, their stuff. I would make, like, for example, I met a guy in, what's the name of that place? Chipley, Florida. I ran into this guy. His name is Tim Manson. He was the first person I met. I was having a terrible time. It was our first, I was supposed to meet an Air Force veteran. He didn't show for the meeting. And I was like, man, this trip is not starting off good. I go into this aisle and I see these wings right here on someone's hoodie. And I walk up and
So your airborne wings?
Yeah, I'm like, Navy or Marine Corps? He's like, he goes, Marine Corps. And I was like, I know you. He was my jump instructor.
Oh, get out.
Yeah. And I was like, you kicked me out of the plane. I don't like you.
Oh, my gosh.
I feel like I was here to, to help you. But now I don't want to help you. And I was like, he was like, how's life been? I was like, good. I was like, tell me about you. And he was like, what are you doing here? And I said, man, me and my wife are on a mission to help as many veterans as we can in the next 3 months while we travel around in our RV. He broke down crying. He said, I haven't wore this hoodie in 10 years. I'm doing SWAT now in Panama City. And he's like, man, I'm bugging. And I told God that I needed him to send me somebody today.
Wow.
Chill bumps. I'm getting them now. And I was like, Tim, like.
So he was having a hard time.
Yeah, I was like, dude, can I follow you while you get done shopping? He's like, I'm done. And I was like, man, do you got 20 minutes? Will you sit on the tailgate of my truck with me? Because we were hauling my truck behind the RV. and let's just, talk about old times. He's like, let me call my wife. He calls his wife. You're not going to believe this. Ran into a student of mine from like 20 years ago. I can't believe that it's 20 years ago, but I ran into the student from like 20 years ago. I'm going to be late. She's like, that's okay. So we sit on the back of my truck. My wife like takes some pictures. I don't even know she's taking pictures, but I'm just getting a story. When we walk up to the register, I felt compelled. This completely changed the trajectory of our trip. I just grabbed out my card, my personal card, not Operation 22's card. This whole trip was paid for off of my money, not Operation 22's. Because we don't have any. But
Not yet.
Not yet. So I swiped my card, and he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And then we take his groceries to the truck, and then we just sit out there, and we're talking. And he just goes into, at first I tell a little bit about my story and why I got out. And he was like, man, I had no idea. And then he's like, to be honest with you, I've tried it 3 times. And I was like, man, not you. This is one of the baddest dudes on the planet.
One of your heroes.
Yeah, he's a recon guy in the Marine Corps. And he's one of the coolest guys I know. I'm like, not you, man. And he's like, man, me. And so he's going through some struggles and tells me a story that I wasn't expecting to hear. And it put me on track. I was like, I walk in the RV. I said, babe, the plan was to help 22 veterans across 22 states. We wanted that number to make sense. At the end of it, or when I walked back in the RV, I said, I'm helping every veteran I see for the next 22 states. And she was like, okay. She had my back. She helped push it.
What an amazing journey.
And it was amazing. My kids got to see places that some people would never see. We stopped in, I think the worst place we stayed, it was in Shiprock, New Mexico. It's a third world country. The Navajo Indian tribe, all the wind talkers, all the old school Navajo Marines and Army people live there. And it is so sad. Oh. I was like, how can I help you? A tribe of them. I was like, how can I help you? They were like, we need woods, we need rice, we need beans. Wow. I was like, how much? They're like, I don't know, like a truckload, it'd be like $100. I was like, it's Christmas. I'm like, no. I was like, let's fill up this yard. So it was like, for like $600, I got them enough wood to make them all the way through the winter, all the way through March. Enough rice to get them all the way through March, and enough beans to make it all the way through March. And then I get a call from the Navajo VFW commander in Shiprock. Hey, we are so thankful for what you did, and I hate to ask you this, but we have a veteran that wants to take his own life. Can you come see him? Absolutely. We're sitting at Sonic right outside the VFW, and it just so happened they're right next to it. And so we go over there, and all it took was a T-shirt, a wristband, a hug, and an ear to hear his story.
Right.
And this guy is literally like an ambassador for me now.
Wow.
He is the Operation 22 ambassador in the Navajo tribe for all the Navajo veterans. So it's stories like that make me go, man, we're making an impact.
Do you think because of what you went through and that you're so open about that, do you feel like that is more relevant to the people that are struggling right now?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more people that struggle. They just don't talk about it.
Right.
And I think that's the problem because, not just men, but mostly men, but veterans in general, we bottle things up. Right. We're used to being tough, and, some of the stuff you've seen being a nurse practitioner, you have to like swallow that and take it home. And the same thing in the military, all the stuff we've seen, whether you're in Afghanistan, Iraq, the stuff I did in Cuba, like that type of stuff, I have to swallow that and then go home and try and be a normal person after that.
Figure out how to process it.
Yeah. And, I think kids sometimes, parents get mad when kids ask the questions where they're like, have you ever done anything crazy? And I'll tell them about Guantanamo Bay, and we all know what happens there, right? So I'm like, yeah, I have. And I have to live with that. So before you decide that you want to join the military, let's make sure that you think about that. Because imagine having to live with torturing somebody. Imagine having to live with watching a friend die. Imagine having to live in complete failure because you can't make it through buds or these programs or something like that, or you don't get the job that you wanted, and then you get out and or you find a job that the Navy needs or the Army needs or Marine Corps needs, and then you're, like you said, you're up here, and then you got out and you're down here. You're just a normal person again.
So as a counselor, how do you help your veterans process those feelings and, come out on the other side?
First things first, accountability. I don't, if I get the angst that you're BSing me while we're sitting there, and when I say BSing, not telling your folklore tale, but like I dig for the problem. So I'm going to ask you those gut wrenching questions that other people won't ask you, and I'll do it with a straight face while I'm telling you my story too.
Right.
I want to gain your trust, so I'm going to be vulnerable. I tell my story. I let them start telling theirs, and if they don't, I start asking questions to get it from them, because we're all struggling. It's just like, what are you particularly struggling with? So once they start telling me what they're doing, obviously I've got them here now, so I'll ask them, like, how can we help? What's your biggest problem in life? And most of the answers are, nobody wants to hear this stuff. The problem is everyone does want to hear it.
Right.
One of the stops we made in that trip was in Waco at Magnolia, and I seen this wall, and it's actually the profile picture on our Instagram right now. Every story is worth telling. And so I spend my time with these individuals, counseling them. And if I feel like that's something too far where I can't help them and they need further treatment, then I'll get them involved with a psychologist or
right. So knowing when to refer up.
Yeah, I know when to push them up. I think that there's a lot that I can connect with, because most of the time it's just, hey, accountability, camaraderie, and love. You start showing some love to some of these dudes who, at first it's awkward. It's like, oh, I'm not used to being loved.
Yeah.
Why is he helping me? But I felt that same way when I moved to Gallatin, and that guy came across the street and said, man, I just want to help you.
So accountability, camaraderie, and love.
Yeah.
And I do want anyone out here who's hearing this today, veteran, non-veteran, if you are in that place where you're contemplating suicide, please know that you're not alone.
1,000,000%. Yeah. And especially this month, the numbers that we were reading on break, a veteran is 150 times more likely to commit suicide than a regular person. That's a sick number. But there's more people that aren't veterans than are veterans. So that's still a high number. There are people that are taking their lives every single day. Right. Tomorrow needs you. Yes. And speaking of Tomorrow Needs You, September 22nd, that's another organization I partner with. Speak Up Tomorrow Needs You. We're going to be doing a 22-mile ruck. They came and supported our ruck. I want to be there to support their ruck too. It's going to be in New Smyrna. It starts at 5 a.m. It's an early bird special, and they have pickup points at every single mile to help people if you want to get through it. But him and I are thinking about combining nonprofits because we have the same mission, and our outcomes are mostly the same, and we do it the same way.
I really look forward to hearing about where your operation goes. Can you tell our listeners how to get in touch with you and how to learn more about Operation 22?
Absolutely. First and foremost, I put my personal cell phone number on everything. It's 386-627-6400. But if you want to go online, you want to see what we're about, you want to donate, operation22.com. And then if you need to shoot an email, operation22inc@gmail.com.
And we'll put all that on our site too.
I appreciate it. We have a goal. Our goal is to get 10,000 people to donate $10 a month so that this can be a fluid running nonprofit. And then we don't have to walk around begging for money all the time because we have money just coming in.
Yep. So I hope everyone listening hears that. Just $10 a month.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's only like a Starbucks and a half now.
Oh yeah. Thanks so much again for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. If there are topics you would like to hear about, please send an email to radiantpodcast2025@gmail.com. I'll be back next Saturday morning at 7:30 with more expert insights and practical strategies to help you live your healthiest, most energized life. Until then, stay healthy, and here's to your best life.